has brought up the fact that he loves football. He's ready to step into a locker room. And he's a player that not only are his young teammates going to connect with him, but his older veteran teammates are going to have that ability to resonate with him. He's going to be able to acclimate very quickly to an NFL locker room. But again, the confidence that you see there, how funny he is, that's something that every team has liked so far.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of the same things. Teams have talked about how much he's aced being on the whiteboard. He has an understanding of concepts. He knows where to go with the ball. And then, of course, being Deion Sanders' son, he has a very high football IQ. The thing that teams are going to get out of Shedeur Sanders is somebody that is very football savvy. They understand the type of leader that he is. And everywhere that he's been able to turn around the program. And that's what he talked about at his podium session today, whether it was Jackson State, where he was able to go down there and win 2 SWAC titles, and then also at Colorado, where he was able to turn around the program there as well. So they understand that they're getting a supreme leader, but also somebody that has fantastic ball placement and then also accuracy. And I believe he's the toughest quarterback in this year's draft class as well. He took a ton of sacks over the past 2 seasons, but he was able to overcome a lot of that.
Yeah, to your point, he always got up, too, and then he threw touchdowns. 37 passing touchdowns, second most in the FBS, only trailing Cam Wardell.
Funny you should mention him. Of course, Sanders is battling with Ward for who's going to be the first quarterback off the board. Mel Kiper Jr. has the Browns taking Ward second overall after he finished his college career with 158 passing touchdowns. That's the most by a quarterback in D1 history. Here is Ward today on Shedeur and himself.
I think we'll both end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I just think the work that me and him are willing to put in, the relationship we have to constantly compete each and every day, to better our craft, for ourselves. I just think it's going to end up paying off for us in the long run. We play around, we joke around with it. It really doesn't mean nothing. A draft pick will never mean anything. At the end of the day, you got to show whether you can prove each and every Sunday. You can't just do it one year and show up the next year. You got to do it every time you step on the field. No, I won't be throwing. I just think fires the film, says everything I can do. I just think, me throwing here is not going to move me in no type of way. I'm just excited to throw my pro day to, the best receiving corps in the country.
There it is. So he's mentioning he is not going to throw at the combine. But, Matt, what is your take on Cam Ward as the best quarterback in this draft?
He is the best quarterback in this draft. He's my number 1 passer, and it's a pretty sizable gap between he and the next quarterback, which is Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward has arm talent and mobility that no other quarterback in this class had when you put it all together. His ability to dial up velocity, to adjust his arm angle, to find those passing windows, and to do it, like Shedeur said, at different levels, from Incarnate Word to Washington State to the Miami Hurricanes. He made every program better. He made every offense better. His weapons exploded. Guys like Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, had never had the year they had until Cam Ward got there. So I do think he's the best quarterback in this class, especially if you're a team like the Cleveland Browns. When you have Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in your division, you need a quarterback who can win you games, who can be a scorer, not just a passer. And I think Cam Ward is that quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, one word that keeps coming up in scouts that were in meetings with Cam Ward is alpha. Everybody says that he's an alpha. He has that dog mentality, and that's something that you saw throughout his career. And even going back to last season, the poise in those pressurized situations. And I'm thinking of the game that's on your screen in Syracuse, even though they ended up losing that game. Cam Ward made a ton of plays to give them a chance to win that game, the Cal game, as well as Virginia Tech. He was able to constantly make plays throughout those games, and that's why I believe he's going to be the first quarterback selected. And it could go as high as number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. The arm angles that he can display, he has that shortstop-like throwing motion that we're able to see from him. I just love everything about Cam Ward, and I think he's worthy of being the number 1 overall pick.
Fantastic. Fellas, thank you. Matt's actually going to stand by and come back. He'll tell us how high he thinks running back Ashton Jeanty could go in the draft. But we have to move on to a story that I trust Kevin is still processing.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to trust it if I can. Breaking news in the NBA here, El. Joel Embiid is being shut down for the rest of the season. The Sixers star has been dealing with an ailing left knee all season that has limited him to just 19 games. The Sixers pairing of Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey has not worked out, with Philly 12th in the East. Did I tell you the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago?
Wow.
We're riding that. NBA reporter Tim Bontemps is on the scene at TD Garden, joins us now. Tim, we'll get to Cavs Celtics in a moment, but you've covered the Sixers extensively over the last few years. What's next here for Embiid to get his knee right?
Well, Kevin, the most noteworthy thing about the announcement today about Joel Embiid's season coming to an end is that the Sixers and Joel Embiid did not say what the next steps are going to be, and specifically whether that means he's going to have surgery or not on that troublesome left knee. And I think that speaks to the complexity of this situation and the enormity of the problem that the Sixers and Embiid face to try to get him right and get him back to the player that, as you and I both know, Kevin, 1 year ago was averaging more points than minutes played, something that no one had done since Wilt Chamberlain 60 years ago. We're talking about a guy who at that point was still seen as an MVP favorite, guy who won MVP 2 years ago and was one of the unquestioned best players in the NBA. And the thing about this season in Philadelphia, Kevin, is that Joel Embiid, when he's been on the court in the past, the Sixers and he have both been dominant. This year that was not the case, and the question now is how can he and the Sixers get him back to that place moving forward?
And they owe him $248 million guaranteed down the road. Embiid finishing the season with his lowest scoring output in 5 years. For more on tonight's matchup in Boston, let's send it over there.
Yeah, let's talk some contenders, please.
Oh,
Okay?
easy over there, Hawk.
Well,
fan.
we are a contender for the play-in.
Play-in every year. Shoe in.
So we've got a battle between the top two teams in the Eastern Conference, probably an Eastern Conference preview, finals preview. Celtics-Cavs. Top-seeded Cavs enter the matchup on an 8-game win streak, tied with the Pistons for the longest active streak in the NBA. Cleveland leads the league in points per game and three-point field goal percentage. But then there's the Celtics, who've taken 2 out of 3 in this matchup this season, including a 7-point win in Cleveland a little earlier this month. The Celtics are one of 2 teams to rank top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. The other, OKC, who are presumed to come out of the West. So while this is the final regular season matchup between these teams, there's a 51% chance, as I mentioned, that the Cavs and Celtics are going to meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's at least according to our ESPN analytics. The next highest percentage would be the Cavs facing the Knicks at 19%, which I find interesting as well. Okay, Tim Bontemps still here to talk about the reason that he is there. What are the Cavs saying about the importance of tonight's game in Boston?
Well, 3 weeks ago, the Cavs and Celtics played right before the trade deadline, and the Celtics went on to win that game fairly comfortably, even though it was a 7-point margin. And right after that, the Cavs went out and acquired DeAndre Hunter, I should say, from the Atlanta Hawks, giving them the big wing who can both shoot it well from 3 and go up size-wise against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the kind of weapon they did not have before and the kind of weapon they want to see if they can get a win against these Boston Celtics in tonight's final matchup between these two teams. Boston's won 2 of the first 3 games in this season series, and even if the Cavs don't come away with a win tonight, Al, a quality matchup here, a close game on the road against the Celtics would send a message that when these two teams potentially play in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's going to be different than it looked last season when the Celtics won a very comfortable 5-game series. But Donovan Mitchell made it clear this morning this game is not going to determine the championship. It's not going to determine who's going to win that series in the fall, or in the spring, I should say. It's about the Cavs showing they've made progress and continuing to build forward as they hope to win a championship this spring.
I feel like you guys are both trolling me because Kevin talks about the Hawks being a play-in team, and honestly, they were a surefire play-in team until DeAndre Hunter was traded away, and now they're just a hopeful one. He is a fantastic pickup for Cleveland.
Contender.
For much more, we send it over to Mike and Tony for a PTI bonus topic on this game tonight.
All right, Wilbon, is Cleveland the biggest threat to a Boston repeat?
Tony, I think so. And I don't want to disrespect Milwaukee, which after starting 2-8 is something like 31-17. So they've been on a nice pace since that awful start. But when you look at Cleveland, when I look at Cleveland, they got a quartet with Mobley, Allen, Mitchell, and Garland. And then the other starter, the 5th starter, moves around a little bit. But then you've got 3 guys at least, maybe more than that, in Hunter, in Okoro, and Dean Wade. They've got depth. They've got size. And I mentioned that starting frontcourt. They got size. They know how to use like an old-fashioned team. When you've got a guy like Mitchell, you've got a star who's been in big playoff games and can go toe-to-toe with other stars. Yeah, do I give Boston an edge? Yes. But if the question is biggest threat, I think Cleveland is it.
Yeah, I like the question, is Cleveland the biggest threat to Boston repeating with the championship? Cleveland right now is 48-10. Remember that number, 48-10. Because Boston is 42-17. They're 6.5 back. So the question should be, is Boston the biggest threat to Cleveland winning a championship? Because Cleveland has left them in the dust at the moment. Now, to be fair, Boston went through the playoffs last year, 16 wins and 3 losses. A fabulous run. So when you get to the playoffs, it might be a different story. But Cleveland right now has left them behind, don't you think?
Tony,
come on.
I do. I don't want to eliminate Oklahoma City. which is right there, like a half game
Who
or a
you
game
think-
behind
you think they're
Cleveland for
gonna win?
best record. Because I've always thought all year, but Tony, once you look at it now, Boston's getting settled in. They're no longer bored like they were when they had that 500 stretch of basketball about a month ago. They know we're after the All-Star game. We're coming up on the playoffs. They're playing like it. And so a game between the Cavaliers and Celtics really ought to be fascinating.
We talk about the playoffs from the beginning of the season on because they have more playoff teams in the NBA than any other league. They have 20 out of 30 make the playoffs in one form or another, which sort of kind of devalues the regular season. To me, every once in a while, Mike, and you know me, it sounds like, will Dak get his money? Like, that's the playoffs are always in the future. Will Dak get his money? So
Yeah,
anyway,
but
go ahead.
I'll take those playoffs. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
Still to come on SportsCenter. Donovan Mitchell sounds off on the Cavs' chance to stake their claim as the East top team. Plus, Stephen A. Smith responds to LeBron's criticism of the way stars are covered in the NBA. And after his record-chasing season,